My name is Gustavo Vinueza. I'm part of Fairfield since the beginning of the year, and I've been working in the qualitative risk analysis arena for the last 15 years now. Right? This is what I like the most. This is what I like doing. And right now, I've been very lucky to work with the Fairfield Group and very lucky to work with Safran Risk. I'm tell you a little bit about Safran. Safran is the preferred software, at least by a lot of people, provided for project control professionals, right? Why? Because, and you will see now, it has an incredible user interface. It's very simple, but at the same time, very complete, right? So you can do, if you're a newbie, you're not going to be frightened by the amount of options, but then you can drill down in a lot of different options too, if you're an advanced, right? And if you're running, time critical, asset intense, resource constrained capital projects, Safran is going to be, and Safran Risk is going to be your option, your de facto option. Who are us? Who is the Fairfield Group? And the Fairfield Group, we're experts in QRA, and we are a platinum partner with Safran. Basically, we run their services for some areas in the US. I know that some areas, and please, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, in Europe and the Middle East and all of Latin America, right? And Sam works in tandem with me on that. Please, if you need something to aggregate that, Sam.
Not at all. I was just anticipating that I might, that's why I muted myself. But yeah, bang on.
Okay, great. And Sam is going to be giving us some information at the end about additional training courses and some potential events that we'll have in the future. We're going to run these webinars once a month, so thank you all for coming. And we just finished, as I was saying, our fundamentals training that we also run every month. Yesterday with almost 15 people there, so more than happy to do it because this is something that I really like to do. So what is it that we're going to see today? We're going to start with a basic explanation of our risk framework, and this risk framework is the same risk framework that Safran Risk uses, right? And then what we're going to do, we're going to focus on QSRA, and we're going to import an P6 file and include uncertainty on it. So what we're going to do, we're going to import a file that has minimum, most likely maximum information, run simulation on top of that, and convert this uncertainty into our Safran risks. We're going to play a little bit with layouts. We're going to play a little bit with filters, right, with symbols, to see all the productivity hacks that you might have with Safran Risk, doing very little. Then we're going to use something that is called the global risks, where you can have like a repository of risks that you can use, right? So on top of that, we're going to analyze results, take a look to the drivers and the sensitivity analysis. And finally, we're going to use another feature of the software, which is called the scenarios, right? So this would be a complete QSRA life cycle, right? And thank you all that are joining. If you see me that I have to interrupt a little bit, it's because I have new people, or maybe maybe you can help me out with that. I gave you host permissions as well, right? About the main framework that Safran Risk uses. So please remember that you have a Gantt chart, right? A plan that is in P6, right? This plan is in P6, and potentially each and every one of the tasks in your plan can be given uncertainty, right? And this uncertainty can be disaggregated in two, right? Which is basically this, right? This uncertainty can be disaggregated in the natural estimated uncertainty, or EU, which is basically due to the natural oscillation, right? Natural oscillation of the variable. So for example, you have here, for example, you can have, I don't know, the productivity of a team. You can have the number of hours that you're working on something. You can have the actual throughput of certain tasks that is going to vary day by day. For example, you're going to accomplish X number of square meters every day, but it's not going to be exactly the same, right? That's the natural oscillation of the variable. And the second option, and the second component of it, are the risk events, right? Which are here, which are events that they have a probability, which is from 0 to 1, mostly is from 0 to, I don't know, 0 to 0.5, right? And they have an impact, right? They have an impact on that. So meaning that every time they occur, your initial distribution, let's say that you have maybe something like 10, 20, and 40 days, right? Your initial distribution can get up all these ways. So for example, to even 70 days, right? And we're going to see something that's called the real-time analyzer, which is going to let us see exactly that particular analysis, right, in all the risks. So this is the main framework. This is the part of the uncertainty and risk events, which basically lets you see how is it that a task that was static is converted to a dynamic probabilistic, right, task. Now, what happens that you have at the end, you have two of these tasks. One is used for the pre-mitigation, so you have your time component here, right? You have your time component. One is used for your pre-mitigation, and another distribution is used for the post-mitigation, meaning that you have these two, right? And Safran Risk also uses the exact same framework, which is you have your inherent or pre-mitigation, meaning that this is your as-is scenario, right? And then you will have a to-be scenario, right? You have something where you want to be after you perform some mitigation actions. Mitigation actions here, like accept the risk, decrease the risk, outsource the risk, etc. All the mitigation strategies. That's something that you have and you can find in Safran Risk as well, right? So this is the main framework that we're going to use, right? Okay. Now, let's start with Safran Risk. When you open it, if this is the first time, right, when you open Safran Risk, you see that, first of all, Safran Risk has a difference with all the other software that you have in the market, is that Safran Risk uses a database to store the information. It doesn't use uh, files. It uses a database that makes it very, very consistent, makes it very fast as well, and it protects your information from inconsistencies too, right? Those are great reasons to have it. And what we will do an import of an external project file, right? This external project file is going to be my P6 file, right? Which is one file that we use during the trainings, which talks about building a manufacturing facility for drones, right? So I open it, I read it, and when I read it, and this is something that normally, I mean, it was almost immediate because the file has less than 50 tasks. But if you ask me, Safran Risk can be used with tens of thousands of tasks. There's one log into Safran's knowledge base that talks about them using it with 170,000 tasks, right? Which is well, a little bit too much for me, but perhaps if you have a lot of planners and the project is, I don't know, 10 years old, it's going to be 10 years in the future. So maybe this is not going to be that crazy, right? So how is it that you import? We start with importing P6, right? Like this, we take care of the planning unit, which 95% of the time is days, and we go to uncertainty. And this is an option that normally we don't use that much, and this is because sometimes we don't know that it is there, or we don't have uncertainty in our P6 file. In the P6 file that I have, I included some uncertainty. So that is why I'm going to import the uncertainty. Here I map, and this is going to be generated automatically by Safran Risk, the different columns that I will have to map to the minimum, most likely, and maximum duration, and I'm going to import these in days. Then I click on next, and well, this is going to take care of some potential problems that were discovered. Sometimes you have warnings here that you will log, right? And then finally you say, well, this is going to be called drone B12, or no, demo, and the date of today. And this is going to be saved automatically into your database. Once you import the file, right? Once you import the file, you will be taken to what we call the schedule view. And this schedule view is going to be the typical project management interface like this, like the one that I have here, right? One thing that you have to take care, right, is that the moment that you start this, you will have just one layout. And this is something, and it will be seen like this, right, which is very dry, right? And you will have, of course, you can have much more of these layouts here, right? So the main idea, and this is one of the things that I want to show you today, is that you can build layouts for different portions of the, in this case, of the risk management life cycle, right? You can build a layout that's a constraint checker, for example, and you have some constraints, and you want to take a look to see if you have these constraints that could prevent risk from propagating. That could be one, right? The other could be the import check. The import check would be to check the difference in days between the P6 file that you just imported and the Safran Risk file that was built, right? So that's something else that you can do, right? I have some, here you go. I had some noise, I'm so sorry. Then you have that, right? And you can build. So what we did, and if you're interested, please write to me. I will put my email here, right? It's Gustavo. Let me see here. It's Gustavo at ferryfieldgroup.com. Is if you want this set, because what we have is something that you can import here, import layouts, and we have this layout set. SPL means Safran Project Layout, right? And this layout, we have all of this ready, right? Why? Because we realized that, again, during different stages of the project risk management lifecycle, you will have and you will need different layouts, right? So you have something that's very general, like the Primavera one that I'm going to show in a second, but also you have cost loaded, you have the duration uncertainty that I'm going to show in a minute, the risk input, the risk output, etc. So if you like them, and if you think you need them, please write to me and I will send it, right? More than happy to do it. So how it is that they work, I just go here to home and change it. For example, I go to the Primavera one, and it's going to change, you see, the view, it's going to change how it's grouped, you see, in these group properties, it's going to change how it's grouped, it's going to change the columns, it's also going to change how is it that you see the variable, the tasks. For example, if you want to have the critical tasks highlighted or not, right? And we're going to play a little bit with the symbols here too, right? What is the definition of the symbols, right? So all of that comes in the layout. So giving you this list of layouts, of this set of layouts, is going to really improve your productivity, because otherwise you will have to do one for each one of them. Safran Risk has a complete layout manager here, right? So you can have all the layouts that you want, and you can copy them, you can limit, you can save the layout, you can go to the recent ones, etc. So it's really handy, right? Now, please remember that one of the things that we wanted to do, we wanted to leverage on the fact that the file from P6 that I'm importing, it had some uncertainty included. So what I can do, I can go to the, for example, the duration uncertainty 2024, and what you will see, here you go, voila, you have the duration uncertainty here, right? The minimum, most likely, maximum, right? If you want, you can see the distribution too, like this, right? And if you want, you can change that, right? You see, uniform triangle, beta pair, etc. So that means that the information, you see that you can move it like this. The information that you got from P6, you can put it easily into Safran Risk. Now that we have this uncertainty imported, what we can do, we can run it. We can run a simulation without doing anything, because we want to see how is it that it will work. So what I will do, I will go to Analyze, and the first thing that you will try to do, I know, is to run the analysis, and it will tell you that you don't have any risks of uncertainty set up. Why? Because you have to check this option here that risk includes a schedule uncertainty, right? So the moment that you include it, you run the analysis like this, and this is going to run the analysis that you set up in P6. So you see that you have to do anything. You don't have to do anything, and then you can start running your models with Safran Risk. Remember that you have your finish date here, and also you have your duration, right? So I can change that, and you'll see the duration goes from 630 to 747 days, right? Things that you can do, you see, when you want to interpret the results, you can say, well, I want to see my P80. So my P80 is 700 days, meaning that I have 20% probability that the project is going to take more than 702 days, and it's going to be 80% probability that it's going to take less than that, right? So I can put P80, P90, depending on what is it that you want. You can add your cumulative if you like this, right? You can disable the histogram if you like. So you have a lot of different possibilities here. If you like, you can set up something that's called a curtain, like this. So I will build a curtain that's called P50 to P80, like this. Let me do it again, right? Let me do a curtain that says, let's say mean to P80. Let's see if I have this, mean to P80. I have the mean here, yes. I have the P80 here, yes, right? And I can change the color if I like this, you see? Here you go. So I have my curtain from mean to P80. This is good if you like to calculate, for example, contingencies. And the 16 days is no longer, and the 16 days is the distance between the mean and the P80 that is equivalent to 3% of the probabilistic duration of the project, right? What's the probability of getting to the probability in the deterministic? 0%. Why? Because the minimum is equivalent to the deterministic, meaning that I'm not going to make the deterministic. What I can do, I go to the target and say, I just talked with my client, and he's okay to give me additional 20 days, 650. 650 days gives me just 3%. You see, 20 days, but maybe you say, let's go 670. 670 is 21%, right? Which is here, meaning that at least I have in 1 in 5 scenarios are going to be on my favor, right? Because that's what I negotiated. You can do pretty much everything with this. You can export the table, the data. You can copy that, move to a PowerPoint. You can see the iteration data if you like, right? If you're more like a simulation type of guy that likes to include that into your analysis, you can do it and you can export it. Now, please remember what we did, right? We haven't done anything in the risk, in Safran Risk. What we just did, we just used the schedule uncertainty that came from P6. So one thing that you can do to get the most of Safran Risk, you can go to the risk mapping here, right? You see that you don't have anything to map. You just have the tasks, but you don't have the risks to map. And you can say convert to uncertainty. And what this is going to do, this is going to convert the uncertainty that you had in P6 into risks, into Safran, right? So it says that, for example, this estimated uncertainty, the one that it's the narrower one, right? The less volatile, it will be mapped to 2 activities, estimated uncertainty number 2 to 4, and this one to 21, right? So I can create the risk like this, and automatically will create the risk that you're going to map like this. And it shows you what was the original mapping, right? So now we converted a P6 file to a Safran Risk file, right? Because right now we have the risks here included. What else did it happen in the back is that it created the project risks like this. You have estimated uncertainty 1, 2, and 3. Each one of the estimated uncertainties, it has a percentage like this, right? That is already applied to the tasks, right? So that's a great feature that you have, I'm sorry, in Safran Risk, where you can convert it, right? Now that we have that, I can run the analysis again. I don't have to include the uncertainty because you see here, now you have it. Couple of things to know here is that you can include or not one or more of these estimated uncertainties with pre and post mitigation. Right now we only have pre-mitigation information, but we can add, and we will add eventually, right? So yeah, I can run the analysis like this, and the results are going to be pretty similar to the ones that come with initially with P6, but now it's being run with Safran Risk. So that's a good thing. Now that we have that, we have the model. A couple of things that we can do with the model. One is to take a look to the drivers, right? The drivers, remember, we don't have any risks so far. We have what we call estimated uncertainties, right? We are working in the framework. We are working in the blue triangle. We are not yet working on the risk events, right? Risk events, not yet. We're working on the uncertainty portion. So that is why when you go to drivers, you only will see the activities that drive the finish date of the project. You're not going to see the risks. You're only going to see the activities. Now, what you have here is a correlation analysis. It's a correlation coefficient analysis, right? That basically measures the correlation of each one of the tasks samples with the total finish date, with the final finish date, right? If this is a correlation, that doesn't imply that there's a direct relationship, but the higher the correlation coefficient, which is from 0 to 1 or from -1 to 1, means that the most extreme it is, let's say absolute +5 or absolute +5 or maybe +5, negative -0.5 or more, right? That means that you will have a relationship there. That's my rule of thumb advice, right? But the good thing is that you will be able to take a look to them. Things that you can do, you can also drill down here and you can say, what are the main drivers of the preliminary tasks? So you have it here. You see you have a 97%. So you have to take care of this task, or the fabrication or the construction like this, you see? Or you can drill up and go and see the complete model. Okay. So this is going to be like our immediate drivers analysis. But also, if you like, you can go to the sensitivity analysis. And the sensitivity analysis, what it's going to do is going to do what we call an exclusion process. This exclusion process is going to calculate the impact of the 3 different uncertainties, right? But now the impacts are going to be in days. So I will ask you to hold that thought with the sensitivity analysis, right? Because this is the normal life cycle that you have in a QSRA project, right? I'm sorry, in a QSRA analysis. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to go back here to our risk mapping, right? To show you that there is one, this is the first way of doing that. Remember, we just got the uncertainty from P6, we map the risks, we run the analysis, you see, this is what we did. We have the schedule, we went to risk mapping. From risk mapping, we built the risks, and then we run the analysis, and so the distribution graphic, drivers, and sensitivity analysis. You see that at the end, as I was saying before, the interface is not as challenging as some other solutions. It's simple, it's natural, right? And it goes in order. Now, what else you can do? What if you find in the results, you find in the drivers, that the results don't make much more sense, which is something that you're going to find, whatever it takes. So the risk mapping, which is the heart of Safran Risk, but it will let you do, you can select here the duration first, so you can have a look to what this is doing. You see, now you have a duration, and you take a look and see, well, take a look here. You have the two design options, two design activities, but this one has a very mild, maybe uncertainty, while this one has a very high. And here, take a look here, you have very high uncertainty here as well, right? So what we're going to do, we will do 2 things. One is that we're going to incorporate to this analysis another field that was built in P6. I'm going to click here and I'm going to go to text 2. And this file is something that it's very common, right? It's very common to have the level of risk that comes from P6, right? It's the category, right? It's like a personalized category, right? Personalized category that comes from the P6 file, like this, right? And what you can do, you can double check if the analysis, if the uncertainty that was imported corresponds or not. For example, here you have a high category in terms of risk, but this one is very low. So what you can do, you can map it like this. Same here, this is low and you have it in high, so you can map it here as well, right? What happens if you have, oh no, 3,000 tasks? So you can go here with the filter, select that here, and you can analyze only the low ones, or only the medium or the very high ones. You see, even the very high ones here, you have to change that here. So this is going to make it very simple. And below, as you see, you will have the risk, the real-time analyzer, the one that I was showing you before, right? So a couple of things that you have now. You see that you have this internal filter, and then here you have all the variables. Now, let's say that I want to do an additional analysis, because it catches my attention that you have a lot of tasks that are more than 30 days. So what I will build a filter, but I will build a filter here in the schedule, right? That's going to show the tasks that have 30 days or more. Okay, and so how do we do that? So I will go here to filters, right? And I will create a new one. new one. It's going to be 30 days or more, like this. And I'm going to insert a row for the conditions. This is the conditions sandbox. So I insert a row and I will say that the duration here should be greater or equal to 30 days, like that. And I will apply it. And you see what happens? Only the tasks that are more than 30 days are going to appear there. Now, what happens is that the moment that you go back to the risk mapping, right, you see that this filter is applied automatically. You see, you have 40 days, 90 days, 30 days, like this. How is it that you know it? Because you can take a look here, right? And it says showing 30 out of 30 activities, 13 out of 30 activities, right? And on top of that, you can filter that. So you have to be very careful because the filter that you have here in schedule is going to be propagated to all of the different options of Safran Risk. Now, if I want to come back, I will just go here and go back and show everything. Now, what happens if I want, for example, here, let's say that I have, for example, this one, right? Let's say I have this layout, and if what I want to do is I want to flag, I want to visually know exactly which tasks have more than 30 days in a very quick way. So what I can do, I can go to my symbols here, right? And in my symbols, I can add a new one. I say add a new symbol that is going to be 30 days, like this. In this case, the layout is going to look like the bar that we have here, which is something that I don't like to. So I will change this to be, I don't know, this warning sign, and I'm not going to have a bar, right? Meaning that it's going to have the warning sign only. And what I will do, I will say, well, I want this to be, I don't know, yellow and red, like this. Right? So the symbol is going to look like this, right? But right now it's going to be added to all activities, as you see here, right? To be added to all activities. So what you can do, you can put it only to the filter activities, and I choose the filter, the 30 days or more, like this. And I click in OK. I click in OK, right? And what you will have, you see, is a visual, quick way for identifying the task with more than 30 days. Why? Because if I have high uncertainty on top of a very high duration task, maybe I should take care of that. Maybe I should wonder why. Why is it that I have such a big volatility for such a high duration task, right? And this is something I need to take a look to. Okay. So now that we did this, remember that we play with the layouts. The offer stands still if you want to write to me. I play with the filters, and I imported the file from P6 and brought the uncertainty, the levels, and then converted the uncertainty into estimated uncertainties here. Now, next step. The next step of the process will be, let's add the risk events, because right now I don't have any risk events. I only have uncertainties. You have two ways of doing that. One would be you can add a new project risk and manually add the project risk, like this. Right? You enter it, you enter a line, and then you have to fill all this information. Or you can go to the global risks here. Right? In these global risks, you will have a repository, like a database, right? A database repository of all maybe transversal or horizontal risks that could be applied, right, to my project, to my portfolio, right, to my practice, right? So there's going to be a lot of people, or maybe not a lot of people, but at least people that are going to be generating this repository, and it's going to be updating the repository, for example, with the, I don't know, let's say organizational changes risk. So the organizational changes risk, and you see here, it has the same framework that we were talking about. It's going to have a pre-mitigation and a post-mitigated position. This risk, the merger acquisition risk, would have an impact of 100 to 150% on the task, but if you mitigate it, it's going to go down to 120 per task, right? The probability, this is the pre-mitigated probability, and this is the post-mitigated probability, is going to be the same. You see, it's going to be 10%. Right? So for each one of the risks that you have here in the global risks, you will have a definition, meaning that if you have a centralized, because you can use Safran Risk with a centralized database, meaning a server with several users, or if you do it manually, and if you have 3 or 4 licenses that everybody uses independently, you can share, or you can have an owner that's going to share an XML file, right, or an Excel file, where I export all of this. He or she would import it, and then he will be able to work like I'm working now. So it's going to be able to take a look to the risks in a risk repository. You can even have what we call calendar risks, like this, right, where you have a setup for a potential downtime during certain months of the year, for example. You can do that as well, right? Now, what is it that I do with the global risks? I go here to the project risks, and I say, I want, for example, here, procurement delays risk, and I include it into my project. Or I go to the e-communication risk, and I will include it. Or I go with the design change, and I will include it. Or let's say with the e-communication, and I include it. So automatically, all the definitions that you had in the global risks are cloned, are copied that here. But now you see that you have a standard risk. You see, it's not estimated uncertainty. That means that you have a probability less than 0. Remember, probability from 0 to 1, right? And this is what you have. Now, when you have that, right, what you can do is you can take this to the risk mapping. Now you see that the risk mapping is going to take all of this. You see that now you have checkboxes here. Before, you had radio buttons. Why? Because the uncertainty, you can have only one, but for the checkboxes, you can have more than one, right? More than one risk affecting the same task. And I can easily map them. For example, using the design, I can say, I will apply the design potential risk to these 3 tasks. And you see, now you have the real-time analyzer, which is the one that I talked to you before. The real-time analyzer is going to generate the uncertainty plus the effect of the design change. What happens, for example, if I have an i-communication issue in this one, in this task? So I click here, you see, and now it has another one affecting it, and this is generated on the fly, right? Generated on the fly. Let's say that the i-communication has issues here, right, at the beginning, just for the sakes of it. The procurement has issues with the tests, right? And also the e-communication here has issues with the testing here, like this, right? What you have to be careful is that, for example, if you do apply a risk to a work package, like for example, construction, all of the tasks are going to have the risk. And maybe this is something that you didn't want to, right? So the question that you will have to always make yourself is that, is it the impact I'm building the impact the way that I should build, or I'm just building just because, right? And that's the main idea, that you would have or not a clear understanding of the risks that are going to be on top of each other when the when the process starts, right? Now that we have the risks, what I can do is I can run the analysis here, right? I can run the analysis. You see that now you have risks which have be checked in or out, and also you have pre and post mitigation capabilities. So I run the analysis with pre-mitigation, and now I have, you remember that it was 16 before, now you have 21 days, and this has up to 815 days. So this is bigger than it was before, right, in the duration. And you can run, remember the drivers, now that you have risks, you have the risks here, right? So you can take a look to the correlations of the risks and the activities, right? If you run the sensitivity analysis, you can run it on the finish date, right? Calculate it. And what you will have is that, for example, the estimated uncertainty 3, which is uncertainty, is going to be responsible for 59 days of the PAT. But your design change risk is going to be responsible for 14 days. And your procurement delays are going to be responsible for 5 days. So this is not an approximate. This is what's going to happen right after the simulation. Of course, we know it's a simulation result, but after the simulation, right, this is going to be responsible for. So the design change would take 15 days from the PAT, and the procurement delay is going to be 5. So if you can make a change here in this risk, if you can mitigate it somehow, your maximum impact is going to be 14 days. Then you will know if you want to go for it or not, right? But it's very important that here you have a much more tangible result than the correlation coefficient that you had before, right? If you combine this with cost, and you can see that in our YouTube channel, right? If you combine this with cost, you can see what is the impact both in days and cost, right? What is the impact of each one of them? And then you can, because what is it that is giving you? It's giving you focus, right? That's what it's giving you. It's giving you focus here and here, right? What is it that I'm going to do? Now, what else do I have? So now that I have all this analysis, right? Well, I can do analysis of the exclusion algorithm that this approach uses. If you take a look to the S curves here, and what you can do, you can say, this is my curve including all the risks, right? This one includes all risks, right? But what if I take it out of the picture, the estimated uncertainty 3, you see? So you have 59 days here, 59 days, right, in my PAT. Remember that you always have to have a reference point. My reference point here is my PAT, right? You have 59 days before. So if I put it back, the estimated uncertainty is going to come to the original. So I know how is it that I'm going to calculate it. Same thing I do with the R003, the design change, 14 days, right? So what's going to happen, and this is the exclusion algorithm that we have, that you will be able to take a look to the different, in this case, marginal contributions of each one of the risks in terms of days or in terms of money, if you're looking at money at any moment, right? What else we can do, and with this I will finish, right? What I will do, I will include a distribution comparison, and for this I will do the distribution comparison in tandem with the analyze, right? They both work together. So what I will do, first of all, I will say, I want to see the effect of the uncertainties that I brought from P6, right? So I will run the model pre-mitigation only with the uncertainties. So I'll run it like this. I have the duration. I can analyze the duration of the finish date. Now I'm going to analyze the duration, and I will say send it to comparison. When I send it to comparison, right, I can say P6 uncertainty only, right? Only the P6 uncertainty. My P8 is 700 days. If I go back to analyze, what I can do is now insert everything here. I want to check everything, and I want to see what was the impact of the different risks in my model. So I run the analysis. You see, it changed, and now I can do send to comparison. So this is what happened, right? And this is expected. My duration moved to the right? That means I have higher duration, meaning that, and this is uncertainty plus pre-mitigation, right? Now you have 725 days. So that means that because of the risks, you have now 26 days more in P80. Of course, I can change this, right? I can change this to P90 if you like, or P95. So the more to the extreme you go, of course, the difference is going to be bigger. So now we stay with P80. And finally, and this is one of the reasons I really like the software, is that you can go back to analyze and say, but now let's use the ones in pre, because we don't have post mitigation information for them, but for the risks, use post mitigation. Because what's going to happen, hopefully, is that we will have a curve that's going to go back a little bit, right? So you change it, it moves, and then you send to comparison again, you see? And it moves to the back a little bit. So this is uncertainty plus post mitigation, right? Like this. So you see what happened. From 699, you were all the way to 725, but after the mitigation actions, the difference between the two was only 7 days, which is this. So basically you were here. I'm sorry. Basically you started here. You went all the way here because of the risk, but then the mitigation took you there, right? So that's the main idea of having the comparison there, right? So what else you can do? What else you can do? Because imagine you do all this analysis, you run the analysis, you run the simulation, and finally you will want to do is you can use one of the layouts, and it's just for the circular closing, right? That reads risk output, meaning that you will be able to add a layout that has the typical duration, but you will have here the P50 duration, right? The P80 duration. So you know that this task that takes, for example, 40 days, this one here, in P50 takes 44 days and P80 takes 48 days. If you like, you can set up even user fields here. I'm not going to do it, but you can set up user fields here, for example, with decimal that reads, I don't know, P50. And then when you assign the values, you can go back and export this file as an XER file and take the information that you got from Safran Risk to Primavera back again, right? So you see that in these maybe 45 minutes, what I was able to do, I was able to generate all this life cycle analysis for QSRA based much on what P6 can bring to the analysis, right? So that you don't discard the information, but it's totally the opposite. You use it as much as you can, so you can build an analysis that it's sound, that it's robust,